Hey, what's up everybody? It's Casey here. It's here on Fly and Tackle. I got something a little different for you today. I got a pretty versatile little jig that I'm going to show you. You're going to probably not wonder why I call it the Dingleberry jig when you see that little bead hanging off the back. But this is something that you can fly fish with, you know, whether under an indicator or you want a Euro nymph in a smaller size. Something that, I mean, you can fish under a float for steelhead, for example, which is exactly why I tied this one. So today, I'm going to show everybody how to tie what I like to call the Dingleberry jig. Okay, so for the Dingleberry jig, I got an Ahrex FW 551 in a size 4. That's a barbless short shank jig hook, and to that I have added an OfishL slotted tungsten bead in the color chartreuse in the size 7/32. So nice big hook, nice big bead, helps everything sink. Now I'll talk about this a little bit more at the end, but this is not just something that you can use for steelhead. You can downsize it, use it for trout, for char, but I'll cover that at the end. So from here, I'm going to take my tying thread, UTC 140 Ultra Thread in the color fluorescent pink, and we're just going to tie that in right behind the bead. And you see how that bead kind of lifted up when I pushed on it with my thread. I kind of want to put a bunch of wraps in there to help lock that in place, keep that bead up and over the eye a little bit more. Sorry, I'm in a squeaky chair today. So we'll throw some thread in there just to hold that bead forward in place. Lay down a little bit of a base on the hook shank to build our jig on. Now, this is going to be something a little different than you see on most jigs. Now, there's no way that I obviously did not invent this pattern. I've seen it out there, but it looks really cool and it also works quite well. Like I said, I'm going to take this one steelhead fishing, so I've got a chartreuse bead on there. You can use other colored beads. You can use a more natural silver or gold if you want as well too. Tailor it towards, you know, where you're going to fish. But like I said, I'm going to take that one. I'm going to fish it under the float steelhead fishing. So I like chartreuse when I'm out there steelhead fishing. It's a good color for me. So where things are going to get weird, we're going to hang a bead, a soft bead, off the back of this jig. So I'm just going to take a normal piece of clear 20-pound monofilament. Now, I like 20-pound just because this bead's going to be hanging off the back and it's going to hold it in place. It's rigid enough that it's not going to droop on me. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a lighter and I'm going to heat up the end of that mono and build up a little bit of a ball there. And once it's cooled off a little bit, you don't want to touch it when it's super hot. I just push it onto my fingernail. And it's burning a little bit, but it's not too bad. And it builds kind of like a little flat spot in there that'll kind of act as a little stopper on the end of the mono. I don't quite like how that one finished, so let's just try that one again. This is way easier to do when I don't have a camera in between me. Or you know what, even better than the thumbnail? The side of the lighter there. There we go. Once I had it in front of me, I got a little bit better end result. So now to get my soft bead onto this line, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a little point in the end of the line, just by cutting it on like a 45-degree angle. And I can spear the bead onto the line that way. I'm just going to go straight through that little embryo dot. And it's going to push it out the back. We'll slide that down so that it sits right on the end of the bead there. You got that little melted end of the mono there, and you can even put a little dab of glue on that line as well to help lock everything into place. And for a bead, I've grabbed an offering from ClearDrift. This is a 10 mil in the color yellow mustard, orange dot in the embryo series. Just a nice natural looking bead on the back there. And again, play with the colors. You know, you can put a bright pink one on there, bright orange one, whatever you like. This one's a nice natural look. And I like how it kind of complements what we're going to tie in for a body. So to attach this, I'm just going to use my tying thread to fasten down that mono over the hook shank. Kind of like that placement there. And you can see that mono stiff enough that it's holding that bead up. It's not sagging down below the hook point. Bunch of wraps to secure that in place. And then I double it over as well too. Just so they got to try really hard to rip that thing off. Now this is also long enough that if a fish rips that egg off, you can cut a tip or a point on the end of the line there, put a new one on, and still melt that mono and have enough room to fish it again. I mean, I don't care. I've said this before on my flies. If a fish wrecks it, I don't care. I'm totally fine with that. I could strip the hook later if I want to reuse it, but I never get upset if a fish pulls something apart. Different story if I, smash it into the rocks or something like that. That drives me nuts. Next material I'm going to tie in, some Hareline medium UV polar chenille and just a UV pearl. And this is just for a little bit of accent flash. We'll give it a few wraps of that. I don't care that that butt's showing a little bit of color and this doesn't hurt. We'll tie that off. And we're going to make a little dubbing loop. Now in this dubbing loop, I'm going to use some Hareline crosscut rabbit flash strips, and this is going to be one of their two-tone colors in the color creamy pink. And again, play with this however you like. This is, to me, is going to look like a piece of salmon flesh, obviously, just with an egg dangling down there. But play with your colors, whatever you like. Now to turn this into a dubbing loop, I've got these material clamps by Hareline. This is the small size. I use the medium ones the most. I couldn't find my medium ones when I was grabbing them this morning, but the small will be plenty for this pattern. And with this, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to clamp that hair right next to the hide. And I'm going to trim it off the actual piece of hide there. And I'm going to take the second clamp, transfer it over, and now I can just pop this into my dubbing loop and start twisting. So now that I've got that all spun up, you can transfer this over to a pair of hackle pliers if you like. This is a short enough one that I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to palmer that in as a collar. Just a half dozen or so wraps of that. Get it butt up, right up nice and tight against the bead there. Tie off that loop. And we're going to trim that thread. Now I'm just going to get a little bit of saliva on my fingers and just stroke that back a little bit so that we can make a head here. Just like that hot pink thread, it stands out a little bit. If you're tying a natural trout fly, you don't always want that, but this is just a little bit of a hot spot, kind of a trigger point. Does it grab their attention? I don't know, but is it going to hurt? It's pink. I'm fishing for steelhead. Absolutely not. I'm just going to do a quick whip finish at the head. second one for good luck. And then I'm just going to apply my favorite glue, and that sucker's going to be ready to fish. So like I said, I tied this on a larger hook with a larger egg because I'm going to take this one steelhead fishing. You can definitely downsize this onto, you know, a size 6 or even a size 8 hook as well. I would downsize it if I was going to say I was going to be targeting cutthroat, for example, or, you know, if I'm just going to be cutthroat fishing and char fishing. Having a smaller hook doesn't hurt. I'm going to be steelhead fishing with this one, so a bigger hook, a little bit bigger presentation. If I'm going to go with a smaller hook, I'd probably also go with a smaller egg. You can downsize it a little bit, go down to like an 8 mil, for example, or I mean, you could even put a 6 mil trout bead, hard bead on there. Like I said, I just like the way that that one looks on there. So what they're going to be looking at, they got that egg to grab their attention, and then there's a nice little piece of meat there. Lots of movement. You can throw a little bit of bait on there. 100% not limited to fishing this under a float. Using it steelhead fishing is going to be newer for me. I have done well with this, like Euro nymphing it. Yeah, it's greasy. Again, like I said, in the smaller version. And you can also fish this under an indicator rig on your single hander as well too, or your switch rod, or however you like to fish your indicator rigs. So like I said, yeah, great for, you know, not just for steelhead fishing, but for char, rainbow trout will eat it as well, and obviously cutthroat. So just a different style of jig than we usually see out here. You know, more fly-esque kind of components, but 100% effective fish under a float. I hope to have a picture of one soon for you on one that I catch on this. Being that I'm taking this one steelhead fishing, you know, I'm going to go take it out to the vetter. I will put some water-based scent on there just to, you know, trying to jazz things up and help entice a bite. But again, perfectly effective without adding any scent, or, you know, even a little bit of bait on there if you really, really wanted to. You know, a little piece of prawn on that hook right there. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, give this one a try. I think you guys will like it. Like I said, I'm not the inventor of this pattern. I've seen it out there before, but just something that's not as commonly seen around here. But definitely, you know, if you like fishing jigs, give it a shot. I think you'll have some good success with this one. So hope you guys like this one. Smash that like button for me. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like always, I'll have all the materials posted below for this pattern. And don't forget to check us out online, www.c-run.com. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Good luck on the water.